For the creatures that live on Omaha Spit, it is the rhythm of the tide that gives their lives meaning. The tide in its cycle determines when to forage, eat, and sleep. Here, where the land meets the sea, all ought to be in balance.
It's pretty obvious now that we've got a real growing conflict on the east coast of the North Island here. On the one hand, we've got growing human pressure on the coastline. On the other hand, we've got these native species, some of them threatened, that absolutely depend on this coastline for their existence. Okay, well here we've got a New Zealand Dotterel. It's an endemic shorebird. That means it's found only in New Zealand. And the last census we did in 2004, we counted about 1,700 of them. So it's actually one of the world's rare birds. I was down at a place called the Wade River mouth in about 1983 or 84, and I saw a New Zealand Dotterel there with some colour bands on it. And I was curious as to where it had come from, and I discovered that the lady who'd banded it had died some years earlier, and nobody was working on New Zealand Dotterels. And there was still an awful lot we didn't know about them at that stage, so I decided to start research on them. And that's where it all began.
There are a number of rare New Zealand birds that live on the Spit, including around 80 Dotterel, out of the only 1,700 left in the world. At low tide, the Dotterels venture out to forage for the sandtoppers and crustaceans that they live on. But as the tide drifts in, so do the Dotterel. One by one, they gather together to socialise and to roost.
We've been doing research on New Zealand Dotterels here at Omaha for nearly 25 years now, and an awful lot of what we've learnt about Dotterels has come from the birds actually at this site. Banding birds has been a really crucial part of the research here. Each bird gets a unique combination of colours, so there are no two birds with the same combination, otherwise we'd get very confused. With individually banded birds, we can see how long they live, we can follow their movements, we can monitor how successful their breeding is and so on. And when we put the information from lots of birds together like that, we can get a really good idea what the population is doing and how we should set about managing them.
Considerable effort by a few isn't enough to save these precious birds. Central to their survival is the involvement of the wider community. The Omaha Spit Bird Sanctuary is unique in its close proximity to human settlement. Omaha is a thriving beach community, home to around 200 permanent residents and many more during the summer months. However, a lack of awareness can cause real damage to the sanctuary. Humans and their pets can be a threat, along with rodents and other predators. And while visitors are always welcome on the Spit, respect for the native birds that live there is essential.
No, I wasn't aware there was any Dotterels at the end of the beach.
No, I'm not sure whether they'd be at that end or that end. Can you tell me?
Yeah, they're up at
They're
that
at that end, okay.
Yes, I am aware that there are Dotterels at the end of the beach.
What's a Dotterel?
I perchance went for a walk down there and noticed that there were some signs saying protected area in dunes and river reserve, and noticed there were a lot of Dotterels around there.
Well, each time I come to visit the Spit, I'm always a little bit apprehensive because often we come and we find evidence that there have been trail bikes ridden down the tracks and across the fence, quad bikes in amongst the breeding birds, all sorts of things like that. And I know it's great fun to do all these things on the beach, but what we want to do is educate those people that live nearby into protecting this area. This area is for the birds. Those sorts of activities can be carried out elsewhere.
Despite the difficulties, it is possible for humans and bird life to live in harmony here. Simple measures like reading warning signs, keeping dogs on leads and cats inside the house at night can make a huge difference to Dotterel numbers.
The key factors to the success of this area in the future will be our management of the pests. At present we have a trapping scheme, but we can't be totally effective. So one way that we can be much better is to have a pest-proof fence.
We're currently looking for funds and negotiating with the council to build a predator-proof fence across the spit here, which will reduce the amount of trapping we have to do. And I think it'll also serve as a signpost to people that there's something very special on this side of the fence.
DOC's perspective is that conservation in New Zealand is too big a job for DOC alone. The local community are ideally placed to do a lot of the Dotterel protection work here, predator trapping, monitoring of the birds, and we've got a good group here now that does a good job, so that's really showing some results for these Dotterels here.
So if New Zealand Dotterels and some of these other shorebirds are going to survive with this growing human use of the coastline, then people need to be prepared to share the beach with the birds. And here at Omaha we've actually got a very nice example of how that can work. Up here at the northern end of the spit, we've got about 500 or 600 metres of beach that is now a reserve. It's been a reserve for about the last 10 years. And this is the area that the birds use. That's where they breed. That's where they form these post-breeding flocks and they roost at high tide. And then south of here, there's about 3 kilometres of beach, beautiful beach down there, which is down from all the houses, from the subdivisions. And that's the area that the people can use without any fear of disturbing the birds.
The shorebirds of Omaha Spit are a precious asset for the area, and it's up to the local community to ensure that they continue to remain here for generations to come.